And so, with a little bit of trepidation, I have to say, my job now is to introduce Larry Norton, who since 1993 has been the scientific director of the BCRF. Since 1988, he was, in my current job, chief of the breast cancer medicine service at Memorial, and my mentor all along. And Larry, thank you for being on the panel. He traveled here from the exotic location of the Upper East Side.
Yeah, and I got here latest, you'll notice. Yeah, I'm a medical oncologist. I practice in New York. All right. And so what am I doing here talking about international things? Well, first of all, by the way, look at the screen, because I look much better on TV than in real life. That's lesson one, okay? Many people here know me in many different jobs. I wear a lot of different hats, which explains why I rubbed all the hair off the top of my head. But one of them is that I do research also, and involved in a lot of research, and through the great blessing of being at Memorial Sloan Kettering and being in a position where I am and having extraordinary people to work with, many in the room, especially Cliff and colleagues. Essentially, I'm sort of involved with everybody here, and I just didn't even realize that since we got there, with the Martine collaboration between the North American Breast Intergroup. I used to chair the breast committee of the Cancer Leukemia Group B. Cliff does that now with Eric Weiner. And a relationship between the Breast International Group and the North American Breast Cancer Intergroup, funded by the BCRF, is developing a real voice of its own. Is remarkable, with Eduardo and his group testing a novel dose and schedule of a commonly used agent that derived directly from research that I'll mention in a minute. Obviously, the connections between genetic susceptibility in Ashkenazi Jewish women in New York and in the Middle East. We're doing PARP inhibitor trials, an extremely important area of research that Alan has really pioneered, developed, and a number of different projects in drug development related to things I'm sure that Jose will talk about in terms of perturbation of the biochemistry of cells. So the connections are really very broad. My own personal research is really mathematical modeling of tumor growth and other aspects. I discovered a knack when I was very young for solving differential equations. I still don't understand them, but I can solve them. And that led very early on in my career, in fact, confronted with a mystery about why cancers would shrink and seem to disappear but then come back. I worked on a mathematical model that explained it. And had some very simple implications in terms of dose and schedule that turned out to be true. I was young enough to have the courage to push forward to testing it. Turned out to be true. Martine wrote a very nice editorial about it, actually, when it was finally published. But more lately, that has evolved. But we've also used that mathematics with colleagues Joan Massaguet in particular, to discover a very novel mechanism of tumor growth, which was before not appreciated. It was called self-seeding. And for those of you who asked me, the paper is coming out in Cell in December. 5 years of work going into that paper, and showing a novel method of growth that actually explains why cancers grow in the special way that they do, called Combertian growth. And several aspects of that really are relevant to the discussion today. One of them is that a lot of that mathematical collaboration has happened with international colleagues, many of whom I've never met. One particular very, very bright mathematician in India, who I only know by name, and we converse over the internet. Several Russians that I'm working with now, a group in China. For the most part, the only language we share is mathematics, and that the symbolic language of mathematics is sort of a kind of a hybrid English to try to explain what we're doing. But the equations stand for themselves. It's very much like music. If you are a musician, you know that a dot on a line will be B or B flat and be recognized by anybody all over the world, and it doesn't depend what language you speak. You can recognize the symbol. The same thing is really true in math, and I could not have done half of what I've been able to do. I couldn't have done probably 90% without collaborations that are international. It hit me really strongly at the dawn of the internet when there was a particular problem I couldn't solve, and one of my colleagues said, I can't solve it either, but why don't you just post it on this bulletin board on the internet? And I said, I know what a bulletin board is, but what's an internet? And he guided me through it, and the next day I had 5 solutions. One of them from my Indian colleague, who I still been collaborating with. But to show you the power of this, just one illustration, I can give many. is as this new concept of cancer really popped into our heads, we realized certain very interesting things about the nature of primary tumor growth, and that is the possibility that the primary tumor, in addition to being a source of cancer cells, may also be a place that cancer cells can lodge after they circulate in the body. In other words, act as a sponge. And we have laboratory evidence that that is the case in models, but we needed some human evidence. And in discussion with Dick Love, who's here, where are you, Dick? Somewhere. There you go. That he had access because of the pioneering work he's done in Asia, South Asia, to patients who have very far locally advanced disease and may just have locally advanced disease or may have a solitary spot of metastasis, which is unusual in breast cancer in our parts of the world, where people are either local or metastatic to many places. And it's an unusual pattern of growth for us, but a common pattern in other parts of the world. And this gives us access to tissues that we can then analyze in a collaboration with Mike Wigler's group, in fact, in Cold Spring Harbor, and just a project that's just about to begin to start to get really solid biochemical evidence that this observation that we made in animals is going to be true in people and may have very interesting and perhaps important implications. And this is the kind of thing that can only happen when you have an international network of investigators that know each other and can work together in a coordinated fashion, learn from each other, learn from our experience. Talent is not limited to any one country, but there are unique situations in different parts of the world that could be used to learn about all parts of the world. And that's a very important thing that BCRF has been involved in. I was actually shocked when I saw the first ad yesterday about how many of our grants are international compared to how many are national. And I knew that it was a significant percentage, but I never really counted it up. When you see it on a page, you really see how connected BCRF has really made the world. Very proud to be involved in this, and clearly my own research has benefited enormously. So as I join my colleagues, I thank all of you for making this possible.